Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for yet another Have Your Say video.
When will this end?
And this one is for Canada's Drag Race Season 6, Episode 3. So today we're going to be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, and I'll be talking about some light tea on the back of this week's episode to do with some potential spoilers about this week's episode being pre-leaked on the internet, and Plain Jane calls out the judging in this week's episode. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. So let's start by recapping the episode. So we find out that there's actually a very interesting twist in that there's actually 2 maxi challenges this week, and the queens can actually pick which challenge they want to do. And so it's a kind of pick your poison, and it's between the Snatch Game and a design challenge. And basically the queens have these little poison bottles, so they pick in order in which they say the first person goes, then they get to pick who goes next and blah, blah, blah. So it meant that only one queen, which was PM, did not get to choose. But basically everyone else got to choose which one they wanted. But there were a limited number of places for each challenge. I'm in 2 minds about this because I think it's a really cool thing to switch it up. And it is really interesting that Canada are doing these really innovative things. I like that Canada is always testing the waters with things like that. My only slight thing is I was thinking, well, Snatch Game is such an iconic challenge. That means that, well, some of the queens, if they picked the design, are they never going to do Snatch Game? And like, is that fair? Because it's such a big challenge. But also, we know there's going to be more design challenges in the future. So if a queen does Snatch Game this time, they're still going to have to do a design challenge. But I don't think the queens who chose design will ever have to do Snatch Game. But I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, which of the challenges would you pick? And you voted 64.9% for Snatch Game and 35.1% for design. And I would 100% agree. There's no way, although I have a PhD in fashion, as you can tell from all of my amazing garments.
Lies.
Baby.
Lies.
Baby.
Lies.
I would not pick design. I think I would pick Snatch Game. I mean, I would fail at both, but I feel like I would fail harder at design than I would at Snatch Game. Okay, so let's start with Snatch Game because that was the first challenge that appeared, and I'll talk about them in order in which they were seated. Okay, so we'll start off with Caramilk, who played Flavor Flav. They did mention this in the episode, but obviously for any of us who are obsessed Drag Race fans like myself, we know that Flavor Flav has been done on Snatch Game before by Shea Coulee on All Stars. So it is, I mean, a little bit of a risky choice because Shea did really well with that character. So I don't know, I think I probably wouldn't pick that character. In terms of this performance, I did not think it was very funny at all. It started off okay. The first response was kind of funny, you know, like doing the, hey, you know, all of that kind of stuff, very Flavor Flav, and the clock. I know that I certainly like talking about big clocks. But I just think that, as the judges said, Caramilk just repeated the same jokes over and over and over again. And I know people are going to say that's basically me and my channel.
That is correct.
But it just was not very funny. She kept relying on these really not very funny bits. And I think the biggest thing was that she just didn't really volley with anyone. She was just literally repeating the same things over and over again. So unfortunately, I would have to give this performance an A. In the Have Your Say poll, it was almost pretty unanimous. So 89% of you voted nay. And then 11% voted just okay. And then I'm pretty sure 0% voted for yay. After that was Velma Jones as the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau. I'll start off by saying I thought she actually looked really similar to Justin Trudeau. Like, that's actually pretty good. She actually kind of looked pretty hot, to be honest. But this performance was just really a flop. I had really high expectations because Velma is quite funny and I thought she would play this character well, but it just kind of didn't really go anywhere. The responses were really bizarre. The thing with the chocolates made 0 sense. I was so confused what was going on. It just was absolutely not funny. I think there wasn't really a single moment that I laughed. So again, I would have to say nay. And again, I think you agreed because it was a pretty strong showing, even stronger than the last result. 93.3% of you said nay, 6.2% said just okay, and then Some percentage said yay. It's like a little tiny sliver of blue. So I guess there's people who must be real Justin Trudeau lovers. Next up was Saltina Shaker as Albert Einstein. I thought this was such a genius choice. We've never had this character before, I think, and it's actually quite a fun character. We've had characters like it, but it gives you a lot to play with because you can kind of just do whatever you want with it because not many people really know what Einstein was actually like. So you can kind of just make him this caricature of it and putting on a stupid German accent, which we all know I would never do. No, I would never do that. That is such a Dummkopf thing to do. I think Saltina really sold it though. She was really fun. She was present. She was volleying. I don't think it was the most standout performance we've ever seen on any Snatch Game, but on this Snatch Game it was, so I would give her a yay. In the Have Your Say poll, I was slightly confused a little bit because although Yay did come out on top, which was 59%, which I would agree with, 37.1% voted for Just Okay, so that's over a third, which I thought was a little bit, I mean, it wasn't the best, but I think for this Snatch Game it was good, so I definitely would have given it a yay, and then 3.9 for nay. After that was Sammy Landry as Marjorie Taylor Greene. I thought this was a really genius choice because it's really funny to make fun of these, like awful politicians, really right-wing. There's so much you can kind of put into it. And someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene is just kind of a wealth of dumb energy stuff that you can pull all of these references from. So she actually kind of looked like her as well. But it kind of, to me, just went nowhere. Where I thought she was going to take it, it just didn't go. The jokes fell flat. It was really not funny. So I think I'd have to give it a nay, but it would be a nay maybe slightly towards Just Okay, because I think she did better than some of the other people who got nays. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you agreed. It was 55.9% for Just Okay. Interestingly, Yay came out second with 24.5, so almost a quarter, and then Nay got 19.7, and I think I probably would have switched those two around. Then, penultimately, we had Maya Fox as Teresa Caputo. Now, we have had Teresa on the Snatch Game before because Fifi O'Hara, who now goes by Jeremy Carey, did it on All Stars. And I think so it's a very good character to pick because, she's a medium and, fortune teller, all of that. There's so much you can go with. She's from Long Island and the look, the accent, everything. Thank God that Maya did this Snatch Game because she was really the only saving grace of this not very good Snatch Game. She was really funny. She was very present. You could tell she had bits planned, but she was really good at volleying and adapting, and she wasn't just sticking to the script. She was actually listening to what the other people were saying and responding to it in character, which is obviously the whole point of it. So this was definitely a yay. And the spirits are telling me something about the Have Your Say poll. They're telling me it was a yay with 94.7%. So pretty conclusive, I would say. You don't need the spirits to tell you that one. And then it was 4.8% for Just Okay, and then 0.6% for nay. And finally, we had Ebony LaBelle as Keke Palmer. I thought Keke Palmer was an excellent choice because she's larger than life. She's got this huge personality. She's so funny, really personable. She always has these funny little lines that she comes out with. There's so many memes and things to do with Keke Palmer.
I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street. I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man.
I just think that it just didn't really go anywhere, though. There's so much material that I don't think I really got Keke Palmer from it. I just got Ebony kind of doing some sort of Keke Palmer type thing. So I was kind of disappointed because I really thought she could have gone all the way with this. And to me, she only went a little bit of the way in, just the tip.
That's what she said.
So I think I'd have to give it a Just Okay. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you agree because it was 67.4% for Just Okay. Then it was 19.1% for Nay. So I would agree it was kind of the Just Okay towards Nay side. And then 13.5 for Yay. So I asked you in the Snatch Game who gets the slay, and you voted 91.6% for Maya Fox. Then it was 5.1% for Saltina Shaker, and then Sammy Landry came in third with 2.5%. And I would 100% agree. There was no one else that even came close in this Snatch Game to what Maya did. It was a very good Snatch Game in a not so good overall Snatch Game, but she did genuinely do a good job, so she definitely gets the slay. Okay, so now let's move on to the runway portion, which was for the queens that chose to do the design challenge. So they had to make their own outfits, and the category was scene stealers. So I'll go through them in order in which they appeared. Okay, so first up was Dulce. To be honest, I did not particularly like this outfit. I can see for someone who doesn't really sew that much, which I think she's not necessarily known for being a sewer, this is probably not a bad try. It's just very simple compared to a lot of the other ones we've seen. It's very clean, I will say, in terms of she didn't try and do too much, but I just don't think it was the most amazing outfit we've ever seen. So I don't know. To me, it was kind of a just okay, maybe towards the nay side, because I think of all of them, it just didn't really look as impressive as some of the other ones did. Which is a shame because I really love Dulce, but I did not particularly like this look. In the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you agreed because you did vote 50.3% for just okay, which is over half. Then it was 34.3% for nay, so a third of you, over a third, said nay. And then 15.4% said yay, so still a decent amount for yay. After that, we had Star Doll. Now, out of all of the outfits, this was maybe the most controversial one, because we'll get to this later, but spoiler alert, she was in the bottom. I did not think this was particularly bad look. When she came out, I actually was like, this is pretty good. Yes, I know that these sort of bits at the top were kind of a little bit flaccid, should we say, compared to what they should have probably been, but I actually thought it fit her really well. Yes, there's a lot on it, but is this not Drag Race? Do we not like it when queens go all in? I thought it actually was perfectly fine and was way better than a lot of the other outfits. I was gagged that this was in the bottom personally. I don't think it's like a yay, shoot for the stars, but I would have given it a just okay towards a yay personally. And in the Have Your Say poll, it was interesting because almost half of you, 49.4%, said just okay. Then it was yay with 29.8%, which is where I would have put it. So just okay towards yay. But then 20.8% of you still said nay, which I was kind of surprised at. After that, we had Van Gogh. I think you can tell that Van Gogh clearly is a very good seamstress. This is an amazing look. The fact that she made not only the actual dress, but the kind of the bodysuit underneath with the pattern, it fit her so well. Her makeup was great, the hair was great, the hat. She made so much stuff. And I think the construction was so amazing that this looked like something that she brought from home. You would not have thought that she just whipped this together in the workroom. So I think no surprises here. This is definitely a yay. And I'm not quite sure if you agreed. I'd have to consult the math judges.
I didn't go to school for math.
But 95.2% of you voted for yay, so just a little amount of you. And then 3.9 said just okay. And then I can't tell, someone did definitely vote for nay because I can see it, but I can't see the percentage because it was so small. And then penultimately, yes, I'm going to keep saying it, was PM. Yeah, this look, how would I describe this look?
Girl, prison, honey.
This look is really just not good. PM knew it as well. This look was just really bad, and she knew it. I did feel bad for her though, because she's the only queen that didn't get to pick her poison, so to pick the challenge. So she was kind of stuck with doing the design challenge. So yeah, overall, I would definitely have to give this a nay. And yeah, I think you also agreed because you voted 87.9% for nay, 10.4% for just okay, and then for some reason 1.7% of you voted for yay. And finally we have Hazel. I thought this look is fine. It very much kind of landed in the middle for me. It looks decently constructed. These kind of ribbon tie things around her legs and arms are quite cool. It's very simple, but I think it's done well, and the execution is pretty decent. There's no kind of frayed hems.
So I have a hem everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's a hem.
But I think overall it was perfectly fine, so it would be a kind of just okay towards a yay for me. In the Have Your Say poll, you voted 57.6% for just okay, 26.4% for yay, so I agree it would be just okay towards yay, and then 16% for nay. So I then asked you who gets the ooh slay for the runway, and you voted 93.5% for Van Gogh, and then interestingly 3.9% for Star Doll. And I agree, to me it was no question. Van Gogh absolutely, she ate, she chewed, and she swallowed this entire outfit because this was great. She definitely got the slay. Okay, so the way the judging happened this week, so obviously it's a bit different, is that they chose a top and two bottoms. Sounds like a good Friday night.
I like to keep
Shut up! You're a whore.
You know what?
So yeah, a top and two bottoms from each group. So one for Snatch Game, one for Design Challenge. And it was so obvious who was what in it, but whatever. But we find out that the winner for Snatch Game is Maya Fox. So I asked you, do you agree with the winner of Snatch Game? And it was 98.3% for yes and 1.7% for no. So of that very tiny percentage of you who did not think that Maya should have won, I said who should have won instead. And interestingly, you voted Sammy Landry with 83.3% and then Caramilk, weirdly, with 16.7%. Then we find out that the winner of the design challenge, unsurprisingly perhaps, is Van Gogh. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, do you agree with the winner of the design challenge? And again, it was a very strong result, 94.9% for yes and 5.1% for no. So of that around 5%, I said who should have won instead. And actually, it was Star Doll that came out on top with 61.1%, then Dulce with 27.8%, and then Hazel with 11.1%. Okay, so we find out that the bottom two for the Snatch Game are Velma Jones and Caramel. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think should have been the bottom two for Snatch Game? And you did agree because you said 95.8% for Velma Jones and 87% for Caramel. So you did agree with the bottom two. Then for the design challenge, the bottom two are PM and Star Doll. And in the Have Your Say poll, I asked who do you think should have been the bottom two for the design challenge? And interestingly, PM did come out on top with 96.1%, but then it was actually Dulce second with 49.4%, and then Star Doll with 34.6%. So you thought that the bottom two should have been PM and Dulce rather than PM and Star Doll. So then we find out because there's two winners, one for Snatch Game, one for design, they both get to use the Golden Beaver to save one of the people from lip syncing from their group. So I asked, who would you have saved using the Golden Beaver for the Snatch Game group? And you voted 61.4% for Velma Jones and 38.6% for Caramilk. And that did align because we found out that Maya did save Velma using the Golden Beaver. And then similarly, I said, who would you have saved using the Golden Beaver for the design challenge group? And this one was a bit more interesting because it was a 50-50 split. Star Doll got 50.4% and then PM got 49.6%. And this is where things get interesting because Van Gogh had previously made an alliance with Star Doll because it was like the first three in the workroom, but actually she chose to save PM using the Golden Beaver. So Star Doll and Caramilk then lip synced to the song Tonight I'm Getting Over You by Carly Rae Jepsen. And the winner of the lip sync is Caramilk, which means that unfortunately Star Doll is told to sashay away. I asked you, who do you think won the lip sync in your opinion? And I'll first start off by saying that I was a bit of an idiot.
Like always.
And for some reason, when I first posted the poll, I put PM as one of the options rather than Caramilk, although I did quickly correct that. So the PM section does belong to the Caramilk section. So you can see that 61.5% of you, but obviously it'll be a little bit more than that. It would be 63.6%. Yes, I just did that maths in my head. Voted for Caramilk, so well over half. And then Star Doll got 36%. And I agree. I think Caramilk performed the actual song a bit more. I feel like Star Doll was kind of just doing lots of different moves and tricks and splits, but it wasn't necessarily in line with the actual song. So I do agree that I think Caramilk won the lip sync. Okay, moving on to the final two questions. Question 13 was, which queen do you think will win the season? And it was actually a pretty big landslide result for Van Gogh with 56.1%. And then it was Sultina Shaker with 36.2%. And then all the other queens had very small percentages. But third was Velma Jones with 3.4%. But then interestingly, moving on to question 14, which was, which queen do you want to win the season? But this one was a lot more split. But actually, Sultina Shaker came out on top with 21.3%. Not that far behind was Van Gogh with 20.5%. And then Velma Jones came in third with 19.1%. Okay, so let's move on to the comments for this week. There were a lot of comments. So I'm going to try and get through them as quickly as possible. Starting with my Patreon comments. My Patreons had a lot to say this week, so I'm going to have to kind of pick and choose which bits of the comments I'm talking about because there was just so much to talk about. But my Patreon Hermit Queen Jude said, Brooklyn was so sweet there at the end with her little slippers. And this is obviously referring to the moment where Stardoll, when she found out she was getting eliminated, she broke down. And I thought it was really cool because Brooklyn literally got up from behind the table, the desk, whatever, and she literally had her slippers on. Can you imagine RuPaul doing that? We all know they wear slippers and stuff, but I thought it was really sweet that Brooke actually took the time to come up and give Stardoll a bit of a pep talk and say, look, it's okay. You win some, you lose some. That was a really sweet moment, and I think it really showed that Brooke cares about the queens. It was a really sort of human moment. So yeah, I definitely loved this moment, and the slippers were very cute. My Patreon Patty said it was great to see Pythia and Isis this episode because they were the two guest judges for the Snatch Game, and then Isis came back for the runway portion as well. By the way, they both looked amazing, both in and out of drag. Like, they were so lucky that they got these two incredible queens to help them with both the sewing but also the Snatch Game. That was iconic, and I really love that Canada's Drag Race is bringing in these Drag Race alums as guest judges, because I think the queens know what they're doing. They've been through this before. They have all this expertise, so why not use them? My Patreon Amy had a lot to say this week. I'll leave it up on screen. The one I'm going to talk about is the second one, which was, I don't think this format worked. The Snatch Game was mid at best. That said, Maya Fox was fantastic. I do agree. Maya was amazing. I don't know if it was the format of the Snatch Game. I just think that the queens were a little bit mid, if I'm being honest. Apart from Maya, they was not necessarily a huge standout to me. They were okay. And I don't think it's necessarily that there were less queens. I just think there was less places to hide because there's less queens, whereas normally you can fly under the radar a bit more when there's more queens. So yeah, I do agree that it was a bit mid. I don't think it's the format's fault. I think some of the queens made really good character choices, but they just didn't actually go that distance to make the character funny. They kind of went in a bit of a weird direction with the characters. However, on the flip side, my Patreon Deb seemed to really like the format and said, loved this episode. The Pick Your Poison was a great twist, which I agree with. I did like the concept of it. And again, we got to see the queens mostly show their strengths and actually got a semi-decent showing on both challenges. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I personally think there were two standouts. There was Van Gogh in the design challenge and then Maya in the Snatch Game, but I think everyone else to me was a little bit mid. My Patreon Max brought up something that I think a lot of people have been saying, which was this season is giving us old school drag race drama with these non-alliances. Now, this is obviously because Van Gogh had this alliance, but she broke it because she didn't save Stardoll. You also had Ebony, who was going around trying to make alliances with everyone, but then also admitting that she wasn't going to keep the alliances. But I agree. What I really appreciate so far about Canada this season is the queens are giving drama. They're not afraid to be kind of villainous and actually give us good TV, because I think that was what was lacking on UK this season, was that there was just no stake storylines. There was no drama. So I am quite enjoying the fact that the queens are being a little bit messy, because we all know I love a messy queen. And my Patreon Riot said something very similar, which was, this episode gave me whiplash in the best way. So many wait what moments. Canada's Drag Race is the GOAT. And because I'm so cool and down with the kids, I know what GOAT means. It means greatest of all time. I'm just telling this because I know a lot of you might not know because you're not young and hip like me.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
And in the Have Your Say poll comments, there were a lot of comments about lots of things this episode as well. So I'm trying to pick certain things that highlight a lot of the through lines and a lot of the comments. So someone said, loved the split between Snatch Game and design. It made the episode fresh. But then on the other side of it, someone said, fun twist idea, but Snatch Game should not have been one of the options. Maybe design an improv instead, because now there's a chance that the winner of the season never did Snatch Game, which I do think is a fair point. Someone said, honestly, I thought Cara and Star both slayed the lip sync. It was a decent lip sync, I will say, and either of them could have stayed. That part I don't agree with. I do think Cara Milk did a better job, but also of their respective groups, I don't think either of them should have been in the bottom. Someone said all the alliances are totally fake, LMAO, those backstabbers, but I have to admit, I do kind of love it. And then someone said this season is so entertaining, the fake alliances, the strategizing, so much fun. I do agree, this episode was such fun. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you enjoy the drama, or do you prefer it just to be a pure competition without any of these kind of like fake alliances and storylines? Okay, so now we're going to move on to a little bit of light tea to do with some potential spoilers that were leaked about this week's episode of Canada's Drag Race. As some of you will know, there are often spoilers that leak about seasons long before they even air. Sometimes they're pretty accurate and they'll say who goes home and when, but then other times the spoilers are not accurate at all. If you remember back when US season 17 was airing, there was a spoiler that was published on Wikipedia which said that Lucky Stars was going to be eliminated before the episode even came out. Well, it looks like something similar has now happened for this week's episode of Canada's Drag Race. An Instagram follower of mine named Saintist_Saint sent me a DM a week ago saying that they had noticed a spoiler had been published on the Canada's Drag Race Wikipedia page and they had taken screenshots. You can see that in the contestants' progress section, it said that Star Doll and Caramilk would be in the bottom two, with Star Doll getting eliminated, and the bottom queen saved by the Beaver was PM. This was posted a week before this week's episode even aired. However, the Wikipedia entry was then quickly changed soon after, and it then said TBA for episode 3. However, as I said, Saintist_Saint had already taken screenshots of it. And now that episode 3 has come out, we can see that this spoiler was 100% accurate. So I just find it really interesting because we have no idea who is leaking this information, but it must be someone who either works on production or someone who has direct knowledge of the season, because this was such an accurate spoiler. The queens have speculated about this sort of thing in the past, and for example, if you remember back to All Stars 10, at one of the Roscoe's viewing parties, Roxy Andrews said she thinks that a producer named Mish is the one who leaks spoilers about the US season. And by the way, I did talk about this spoiler to do with Canada's Drag Race right after it happened over on my Patreon, so if you want to get early access to this type of exclusive content, as well as content that never gets posted on YouTube, make sure you check out my Patreon and I'll put a link to that in the description. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think there is a member of production who is leaking this information or putting it up on Wikipedia? Or do you think it could be one of the queens themselves, or maybe one of their friends? And finally, there's also a little bit of light tea that's related to this week's episode to do with Plain Jane calling out the judging. So shortly after this week's episode came out, Plain Jane tweeted saying, "Not really actively watching, but this was the only look other than Van Gogh's that wasn't poorly constructed. I don't get it." And she reposted a video of Star Doll's design challenge look. People in the comments then asked who Plain thought should have been in the bottom rather than Star Doll, and Plain replied with a photo of PM and Hazel. The same person then said that they would have picked Dulce, and Plain said interchangeable with Hazelnut, and people thought that it was funny that Plain was calling her Hazelnut rather than Hazel. Also, a few of the queens even commented on Plain Jane's tweet, such as Star Doll, PM, and Caramilk. Hazel herself even replied to Plain Jane's tweet about Hazel saying that she should have been in the bottom, and Hazel said, "Thanks for the shout out." Obviously, this tweet is just some non-serious light shade, and the responses were kind of jokey, so it's nothing to get worked up about. But I just thought it was interesting because it seems that Plain Jane was saying what a lot of people were thinking about this week's outcome of the episode, and I just thought this was interesting because the queens themselves were also getting involved in the discourse online, so by the sound of it, some of them also disagreed with production. So we'll have to wait to see if this sort of thing continues to happen in the future, and whether anything like this ever develops into something more than that throughout the season. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say for Canada's Drag Race Season 6, Episode 3. Let me know in the comments whether you liked the fact that they got to pick their poison in terms of the 2 different challenges, or do you think they should have just stuck to 1 challenge per episode? If you'd like to get your comments featured in my Have Your Say poll, get access to exclusive content, early access, as well as many other benefits, please consider checking out my Patreon. It's a cheap way to support the channel, and it does go a long way to supporting the channel, so please check it out, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. Also, I'd like to say thank you so much to my amazing Patreon members. Every week, you are so active and engaged in the Have Your Say poll results and things like that. I love reading your comments. I love speaking to you in the Patreon exclusive chat. Your support, honestly, is so incredible, so thank you all so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And please smash that subscribe button and help me get to my goal of 140k subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and what? Drama. Thank you so much. Bye.